Pre-dawn on the industrial pier, the Longline vessel waits silent as crew boots echo steadily toward the gangway. In the wheelhouse, paper charts and pencil marks fix tonight's grounds, where deep rock and soft mud meet old currents.
Below on deck, bait tables fill with cutfish strips, hands settling into the rhythm of another long set. Hook racks stand like steel combs along the bulkhead, each circle hook checked, sharpened, and ready for bait.
As lines slip from the bollards, the bow eases away, hull sliding past concrete into Black Harbor water. Outside the harbor mouth, rain gear creaks and harness buckles click as safety checks finish before the first hook drops.
Coiled tubs of mainline slide into position by the hauler, each loop a stored path down toward the seabed.
In the galley, last mugs of coffee rattle in their saucers as the bow begins to lift into open swell.
Out on the banks, the bow cuts a narrow lane of white, spray throwing bright arcs into otherwise dark water.
Baited hooks begin lining the rail, each one promising a single chance with whatever hunts these rocky channels.
The first buoy splashes free, marking the start of a set that will crawl unseen along the bottom. On deck, the hauler idles while hands feed lines steadily seaward, matching ship speed with sinking gear.
Far below, newly baited hooks drift into place along the slope, settling between scattered boulders and old trawl scars.
As more buoys fall astern, the vessel draws a careful curve along the contour, mapping steel and rope to relief.
When the last marker buoy splashes free, the crew finally steps back, leaving the set to soak in darkness.
Hours later, a single bait strip glows faintly in silted light as something long and pale begins to approach.
At the surface, one buoy leans just off true, its flag cutting a small, nervous arc against the wind. On deck, gloved hands move to the rail, bodies aligning automatically around the hauler before the first crank engages.
Below, the eel finally surges, engulging bait in a smooth lunge that sets the circle hook turning toward bone.
The buoy jerks once, then settles lower in the chop as new weight drags the catenary tighter along the bottom.
Hauler hydraulics wind to life, drum turning as wet line begins snaking from the sea back toward cold steel.
Along the seabed, the hooked eel twists and rolls, trying to wrench its jaw free against unyielding monofilament.
Near the surface, pale coils flash just beneath the chop as the first eel's body angles toward daylight.
Then the eel erupts in a spiral, white belly flashing as it breaks the surface and whips spray across the rail.
On deck, a tail rope waits open, one more loop of control ready for when the head reaches steel.
Farther down the line, another bait swings empty no longer, swallowed by a second eel sweeping in from shadow.
Multiple buoys now lean together, their flags bowing in one direction as weight builds along the submerged catenary.
The first eel's head finally breaks clear at the rail, jaws working as the lineman pins leader against steel.
A second pair of hands drops the tail rope, closing the loop just behind the eel's powerful midsection.
Down below, more eels writhe along the line, each hooked solidly in the mouth as they knot themselves in slow spirals.
The first eel thumps onto non-slip paint, body still driving in heavy arcs as the rope takes full strain.
Ahead, another buoy slides past the bow, its angle promising that more weight waits in the line below.
A quick pull on the leader pins the eel's head, giving the dehooker a narrow window to work safely.
The next marker comes aboard in a rush of spray, then clatters harmlessly onto the deck beside stacked tubs.
Suddenly, two eels hit the planks together, heavy bodies thrashing in opposite directions as boots and ropes keep order.
Beneath them, more hooked eels turn in the gloom, each mouth pinned by a single hook designed to rotate and hold. One by one, hooks come free and slide into rinsing trays, reset already beginning while the hull still climbs aboard.
Evening closes in as the bow light carves a tunnel through spray,
rail crew still bent over the running line.
Under white work lights, steam blooms from mouths and backs as another heavy section of line grinds steadily through the hauler. Beneath the hull, hooked eels glow in the artificial beam, twisting like living rope as they rise towards steel.
Under work lights, another conger eel rolls aboard, its body writhing as boots and ropes keep chaos contained.
Sorting begins at the rail, hands grading each eel by size and quality before sliding them toward the chill. In the hold, empty tubs wait stacked and labeled, ready to receive layers of coiled bodies and crushed ice.
Back on deck, the hauler never pauses, line lifting from black water in a steady, muscle-deep rhythm.
A heavier pull stiffens shoulders at the rail, every gloved hand tightening as the line bows under strain.
The eel that appears is thicker and longer, pale sides banded with scars from years along the rocks.
Tail rope secure, the crew heaves together, shifting the great eel's weight cleanly toward the waiting hatch.
Below the hull, more pale forms hang in the gloom, hooked jaws working as they ride the rising line.
On the surface, chop slaps harder against steel, spray drifting sideways while the vessel crabs along its markers.
At the rail, fatigue shows in slower steps, yet every movement stays precise around hooks, rope, and steel.
Deep in the hold, crushed ice pours like gravel, forming a cold bed before the first eel is lowered.
One by one, heavy bodies slide down a chute, men guiding them into neat rows along the frosted floor.
Thermometers fixed to the bulkhead confirm temperature, thin needles holding steady inside the narrow band the market demands.
On deck again, the line carries fewer fish now, empty hooks and stripped bait telling their own quiet story.
Still, a sudden jolt runs through the roller, hinting at one last eel twisting hard against the distant bottom.
When it surfaces, the eel whips half at length clear, throwing water in sheets across gear and yellow hoods.
Pinned fast by leader and tail rope, it finally slides into the hold, vanishing beneath a fresh wave of ice. With the last buoy aboard, the crew turns to coiling, mainline feeding into tubs as neatly as it left.
Hooks are counted aloud against the logbook, every missing piece of hardware noted carefully beside smudged pencil marks.
In the wheelhouse, catch figures stack beside fuel and weather, the captain weighing another set against the long ride home. Outside, deck hoses wash away slime and scales, revealing non-slip paint and safety markings under dirty gray water.
Hook racks fill again with shining steel, each point checked under gloved fingertips before the bar is swung closed.
Long bait strips are cut from frozen blocks, pale flesh shining as knives move in short, practiced strokes.
One crewman pauses by the rail, watching short swell against the hull, as he listens to the forecast crackle.
Charts and notes suggest one final pass across the slope, a narrow window before wind builds past safe limits.
The engines rise a little in pitch, pushing the vessel back along its earlier track in search of untouched ground.
Buoys and flags stack neatly against the house, paint faded from years of marking invisible lines across rough seas.
Bait trays come forward again, strips draped neatly over the rims, as if no weight yet lay in the hold. The first fresh hook drops away from the stern, bait fluttering briefly before darkness folds around steel and flesh.
Along the seabed, new hooks settle between old scars, each one a quiet point of scent in moving water. Soon after, a thick eel moves in from shadow, following the faint trail upstream toward the waiting circle of steel.
At the surface, another buoy leans and jerks, its flag swinging erratically as pressure builds along the submerged arc.
Hands return to positions around the hauler. Movement slower now, but still exact as the second haul begins.
This time, more hooks come back bare, bait washed thin by current and scavengers instead of coils of muscle.
Even so, occasional pale bodies rise through the wash, each one a late addition to an already heavy total.
In the hold, the last eels are layered carefully, ice packed along flanks and between coils to hold temperature. When the hatch closes, latches ring against steel, sealing away the trip's work in darkness and refrigeration. On deck, the final section of line disappears into its tub, the last hook clinking softly against molded plastic.
A short cheer rises when the hauler shuts down, drowned quickly by wind and machinery as focus shifts inward.
The vessel bows toward home now, wake stretching straight behind while the bank falls away under deepening black water. Pre-dawn harbor lights grow ahead on the horizon as the Longline vessel settles into the familiar approach lane. Dock lines thicken the silence, thrown and looped over bollards as steel eases gently against worn fenders.
On the working deck, non-slip paint lies clean again, gear lashed down tight for inspection alongside the pier.
A forklift hums across the quay, waiting beside stacked pallets where the first heavy bins will land from the hatch.
In the hold, cold air billows upward as the hatch opens, revealing layered eels and ice shining under white light.
Eels move hand over hand up a short conveyor, boots thudding on steel as each bin is muscled into position.
At the scale, iced bodies thump onto the platform, digital numbers climbing while weights are read into a clipboard.
Grading begins at the dockside table, hands sorting thicker eels from smaller fish into color-coded tubs for buyers. Paper tags mark each lot with catch date, area, and vessel name before bins slide into the waiting cold truck. Reefer doors swing open, breath of compressor-cooled air washing out over men as they stack bins inside.
On the highway, the truck's trailer glows faintly in night traffic, carrying the conger eels inland toward processing lines. At the factory gate, sodium lights wash the yard, where pallets of seafood shuffle constantly between doors and trucks.
Inside receiving, inspectors lift sample eels from ice, eyes and skin checked quickly under bright, unforgiving fluorescent tubes.
Conveyor belts carry bins toward the processing room, ice rattling as workers steady loads for the first cuts.
In the filleting room, knives flash in short arcs, white eel flesh separating cleanly from skin along stainless tables. Hands trim dark membrane and stray bones from each fillet, shaping long white strips into uniform portions for packing.
Portion weights are verified at check scales, numbers recorded while fillets slide onward toward glazing and final protection.
Workers lay the glazed pieces into shallow trays, arranging eel portions in even layers that freeze consistently together.
Labels print with simple black text, listing species, area, and date before being pressed firmly onto each sealed pack.
Packed trays slide into larger cartons, flaps folded and taped as line workers stack boxes by destination code.
From there, pallets roll into a holding freezer, an ordered grid of seafood awaiting trucks bound for scattered markets.
Back outside, another refrigerated truck door closes, locks snapping shut before the loaded trailer pulls away from the loading bay.
A chef brushes oil and salt along each strip, adding light aromatics that complement rather than hide the eel's taste.
Fillets meet a hot grill with a low hiss, white flesh firming as faint brown lines appear across each piece.
Elsewhere in the same kitchen, another pan holds eel simmering gently in broth, surface dotted with tiny pools of rendered fat.
Cooked pieces are lifted onto resting racks, excess moisture shedding while interiors finish steaming through residual heat.
Slices are cut on a bias, revealing snow-white flesh with a close, even grain, typical of properly handled conger eel.
On the plating line, portions meet neat beds of rice and vegetables, each plate built quickly but carefully in sequence.
A finishing sauce is brushed across the top, adding shine without obscuring the distinctive texture of the eel beneath.
In the dining room, plates leave the pass under warm lights. carried through a low murmur of conversation and cutlery.
At one table, hands pause briefly over cameras before steam fades and the first bites disappear behind raised forks.
Empty plates return to the dish pit, streaked with sauce, only a few grains of rice clinging to white porcelain.
Back at the harbor later that season, buyers remember the trip's quality when new conger eel bins slide onto the scale.
In the wheelhouse logbook, that page becomes another line of numbers and notes inside a thick, salt-crinkled record.
On deck between trips, hooks hang silent on their racks again, points shining as the crew prepares for another season.
Beyond the breakwater, waves continue their slow run along the slope, rinsing away every sign of the last longline set.
In the end, only steel, paper, and memory remain visible, the work itself sleeping now in ice and ledger lines.